Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today to talk about the brand new 2026 Black Crows Sato and Sato Birdie. I feel pretty confident about that pronunciation.
That it's not Sato?
Sato?
Sato. I'm sticking with it.
You want to go with it?
Yep.
Okay, so brand new ski from Black Crows for 2026. I will say this video might look and feel a little bit different than most of our review videos or most of our videos in general. I kind of have an unwritten, unspoken rule of how much footage I want to have. And by that I mean on snow skiing footage before we actually put something together. And we don't have that much.
Yeah.
There's some. You'll get to see Bob ski it as well as Bryce, but not as much as normal. So if anything, Bob, you know what that means?
More talking time?
Sure. But it also opens up the opportunity for us to do an on-snow Sato review, which I think would be a really fun thing to do in early season.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a great early season ski, and we've kind of been in that theme for a few years now of, in the early season, we try and review and ski on skis that make sense for skiing early season. That's kind of a response to when we did a season where we started on
a Ripstick Tour 104.
Yeah, and it was groomers and weird, and it just didn't feel like we were doing the right thing. So anyways, new ski, that's the Sato there. This is the Sato Birdie, as is pretty consistent with all of Black Crow's skis. There's no construction differences. There's really no design differences at all between the men's and women's or Birdie skis. Just get two colors.
Yeah, and different lengths.
Yep. Yeah, only one difference in length, right?
There's not many.
No, I noticed that too.
Offered.
Yeah,
at
there's
all.
4 total.
There's 3 here and I
three
think
here.
3 there.
Yeah. So kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's all the introductory information that you need. You want to tell us what's going on inside the ski?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah, not a whole lot. It's fun to kind of view Black Crows as each ski is individual, and I think that is mostly true. And certainly when they come out with something brand new, I think it's important to talk about this ski in its own, although I do have some props when we talk about shape that I'll bring up that'll kind of put it within its own, in the line as a whole.
Yeah.
But certainly a resort-oriented ski and follows Black Crow's design principles of using a poplar wood core and fiberglass, and that's it. So really simple construction, poplar, fiberglass. They are kind of noting that it is a semi-cap construction with 360-degree sidewalls.
Not much semi-cap.
No, not much at all. Just a tiny little bit of overhang, which I don't even think does all that much from durability standpoint.
Sure. I was going to say it actually does something from durability standpoint and doesn't do anything from performance standpoint.
Right.
But
yeah.
Sure.
But not much.
No.
But overall, it's a pretty solid feel, and like with most skis, they're changing it by how they mill the wood core in thicker and thinner areas. But pretty solid ski, nice damp feel, kind of has a thick plastic/rubber tail cover here, which certainly lends to the overall feel of the ski.
Black Crow's always has excellent finish quality.
Yeah, I agree. And then flex-wise, they're not that soft.
No,
they're very.
That was kind of surprising to me. I was in here doing some research on my own, and it's it. Do you agree that it hand flexes stiffer than it skis?
Hard to say, because, and this is kind of where the length comes in. This thing tops out at a 179.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to say for me whether I can get every inch of the 179.
We're going to talk more about 179 because I brought some questions. So
okay, good.
I'll limit you there.
All right. But yeah, this is the 173. I think it's very even, predictable flex.
It is a very round flex.
Very nice energy going on in there. But again, nothing crazy. And it's a very simple build.
You discovered something very cool when you put this ski on the scale.
Yeah, and you get different, slightly different gram measurements every single time. But Black Crows measures this at 173.4, and when I was doing the article, I put the ski on the scale, and it came out at 1,734
grams.
No, 1,000.
Yes.
Yeah, 734 grams.
Yeah.
Which means it's an exact 1-to-1 millimeter to gram ratio.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. And it also has a 17-meter turn radius. It's kind of skipping ahead, but
A lot of 17s.
there's a lot of
going on.
17s, and whether it's by accident or on purpose, I like to think about it like they did this in order to make a more balanced feel. And does a 1-to-1 millimeter to gram ratio make a ski feel more balanced?
Is that the sweet spot for ski construction?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
You know,
either. But
and-
it's very interesting.
Yeah, it just struck me that they use a decimal point for the length, and when I put it on the scale, it was legit.
Like dead on 1734.
Yeah. So that stuck out to me, whether it means something or not, or I'm just barking at the moon. I don't know.
I mean, I think it can mean something.
Yeah.
Whether it's intentional or
Yeah.
whether it means a lot or not, that's
Yeah.
another story. But
Yeah, but is Black Crows sitting there being like, we're going to make this ski the exact same weight as length?
Yeah.
And would it surprise me that the turn radius
is 17.34.
17.34? Like these are things that I like to think about, but
to keep you up at night.
Yep.
Or help you fall asleep.
it keeps me up.
So I think that's it for construction.
Yeah.
Pretty simple construction. We've talked about that a lot with Black Crows before. They do a really good job, controlling the performance of their skis, not necessarily through really technologically involved construction. It's mostly through really, really good understanding of shaping, and that's that's kind of what they lean on. So in that light, I would say overall the shape of this ski is pretty straightforward. 17-meter turn radius, like you mentioned, Bob, and Black Crows does list it as having double rocker, but it's pretty tame rocker. So tip rocker starts about where my hand is, and it's pretty interesting because if you decamber it, that's where you really start to see the tip rocker kick up. There is a lot of camber height, so that doesn't really happen with every ski. If you've got a ski with really low camber, like any kind of mantra,
Yeah.
when you squeeze them together, the tip rocker profile doesn't change much at all. But in this ski, it does pretty considerably. There's that camber height, and it's very snappy. And I feel like you see it in the skiing footage too. The energy that this ski creates is pretty impressive. And then, I feel like in 2025, or if you happen to be watching this after the year ticks over to 2026, in today's day and age, that's not much tail rocker.
Industry standard tail rocker for
Right.
an 88 underfoot ski.
Yeah, it's enough to, yes, you can list it in
Yeah.
its specs as having tail rocker, but it's not there's not a lot going on back here. And then, for me, there's really no early taper in this ski, which I think is kind of cool. Because I feel like also in today's day and age, you get a lot of skis with early taper,
Yeah.
even in this category. Kind of like the antithesis to this ski would be like a Maverick 88 CTI.
With much more dramatic
So
taper.
much early
Yeah.
taper in the shovel.
Yeah.
So that's about it for shape. You did bring some props. You want to talk about your props?
Yeah.
And then I brought some questions.
Okay, shape props. So this is a 2026 Black Crows Cactus, and
Yeah.
this is a Black Crows Serpo.
How do you like the neon green? I like it.
I like it. I like them all. I like it all.
I like this purple too.
Yeah, I think this Serpo with the pink sidewalls is the belle of the ball. But
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so just within Black Crow's line, it's pretty fair to say that the Sato and the Cactus here are very similar in terms of tip shape. So that's lending to having a very fun and engaging front portion of the ski. And it even feels very Cactus-like. I mean, they share constructions. I'd say it's safe to say that these two skis from the mid-body forward are pretty darn identical.
I mean, it is kind of like a directional cactus.
It's like a directional Cactus.
Yeah.
And then the Serpo, this is a little bit less identical, but It's hard to say. It's hard to discount the fact that these tail shapes are somewhat similar. The Sato here has less taper, and I think that that's giving it a little bit more of that rebound and just a little bit of a snappier feel, whereas this thing is just a little bit more drifty.
A little bit more bend to the rocker at the end
Yeah.
of the Sato too.
And this is a much thinner profile
Yeah.
in both tips and tails than the Sato. So these two skis feel more different than, I would say, Sato and Cactus.
Yeah.
And not to get too far away from it, but flex too. This is a much more
Flex.
flexible
Yeah.
shovel and tail due to that thinness than Sato. So I thought that was interesting, just kind of borrowing from different skis within Black Crow's line to kind of make a new thing.
Yeah, and that's like stuff that we see all the time.
Yeah.
Like, Nordica has done it a lot over the years of like navigators were enforcer tips with, I don't remember what they said, tail, and now even like
Doberman tail.
well now like multi-pista.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they said, but like still like kind of more enforcer tip, but more Doberman-esque tail.
Right.
So, pretty cool. You ready for some questions, Bob?
Yeah, let's do it.
Get right into our question section here. This has become a norm. I have a lot of notes in here from different question situations. Okay, here's the Black Crow's Sato page.
Okay.
Just make sure my microphone works. This is a big one to start. It's actually a two-part question. I told you there were 5. There's kind of like 5.5.
5.5.
Yeah. 88 underfoot all mountain ski. It's a huge category with a lot of different skis. First, this is the first part of the two-part question. There used to be another 88 underfoot Black Crow ski called the Orb. So just to start, how does it compare to the Orb?
It doesn't. That Orb,
It contrasts.
it contrasts. So like 288s
Very different.
are very different.
Yep.
Orb had a longer turn radius, 2 sheets of H-shaped metal.
Yeah, like a Justice.
Yeah, this is a shorter turning, more flexible, lighter weight ski that has, it's I guess it's more traditional from a modern sense
Yep.
than the Orb. The Orb was,
I kind of agree.
you know,
It was almost the Orb was like a little ahead of its time.
it was ahead of its time,
Yeah.
exactly, and it didn't really fit in with other skis so much,
Yeah.
and it was hard to compare Orb to like a kendo at the time
Yeah.
because they were so different, and I think people were used to the kendo mentality and couldn't quite hook into Orb.
Yeah, and then people like seem to kind of adopt Justice more quickly than Orb, which makes sense given it's like, the 100 underfoot category. Like, people are more used to seeing free-ridey things.
This is way more encapsulating of the 88 millimeter ski crowd than the Orb was, which was pretty specific.
Well, that's a great segue, Bob. What is the closest comparison from any brand?
How about an Armada Declivity 88C?
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. New one?
Older one's a little closer, but new one's still not that far.
Okay.
Can I make up a hypothetical, or
Sure, yeah.
is that part of?
I'm
one of
fine
5?
with hypothetical skis.
All right, I
M
finished.
Cross 88, but a longer turn radius?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Different tip feel.
Okay.
M Cross 88's definitely a little bit more
Surfy,
kind of wandery.
loose. Yeah.
I finished the first run. I don't know if it ever came through on camera, but our first run down Perry Merrill and stop, and I'm like, this feels like a Solomon QST 88.
Oh,
So if you continue the QST line down in terms of scope, snow feel, performance, dampness,
mostly the new QST
new
line?
QST. So you go 194,
Sweet.
88.
I mean, that's kind of high praise
Yeah.
if it feels like a QST 88.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, Black Crows, to be calling your skis something from another brand,
Or
but
sorry, Solomon, for
yeah.
getting right in your way.
Or sorry, Solomon, that you guys didn't make QST 88.
Yeah.
That's not my fault.
Yeah. No, I mean
I
that.
hope
Like,
people aren't actually getting annoyed.
but if you think of like the free ride, like the 100 is more free ridey, and
Yeah.
the 94 becomes
A
more
little flatter tail.
little flatter, more
yeah,
all
and then
mountain,
this
and
continues
then
that
this
progression.
continues that trend.
Yeah, and like overall fairly similar construction. Obviously, we don't get like the cork amplifier,
Yeah.
but you know, sort of aside from that, pretty similar.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, thanks, Bob. This is, sorry, my microphone has a mind of its own today. This is sort of a three-part question, but it's actually three different questions.
Now we're up to like 8 questions.
No. It's still 5.5. These just all like kind of carry a similar theme. So the theme is that Black Crowes has awesome descriptions for their skis. I would say they are industry best.
Yeah, they are prosaic and flowing
Yeah,
and poetic.
and like make a lot of sense.
Yep.
They're like fun to read, but
Yep.
also informative. Like
Yeah.
you read it and you're like, I understand that ski.
That makes sense.
This
yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Black Crowes, as opposed to, we don't need to talk about the worst. The worst is one of the brands that is written in a European language and then translated
And then
with
Google
no
Translate.
editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are tough.
And there are several,
Yeah.
seemingly. All right. So Black Crowes has awesome descriptions of their skis. Do you agree that it is bursting with joy?
I do. Like that was definitely part of my initial experience, and I think that the initial experience is a big part of the Sato's allure.
Yeah.
Is that it's so easy to get
Super
along with.
intuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no learning curve at all. You
Yeah.
get on this thing and you go and you're making beautiful, clean turns with
Yeah.
minimal effort and a solid feel. So
Yeah, because it is solid, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a soft flexing, like lightweight.
yeah,
There's some substance to it.
yeah.
Which I think is important.
So I guess if you kind of assign those qualities with bursting with joy, then yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like the happy puppy kind of analogy.
More of a cat guy, but
Well, okay, it's fine. I don't feel like cats exude joy very often. But, you know, quick, energetic,
yeah,
happy to be out there.
totally.
Always having a good time, not too serious.
No, that's certainly part of it.
Okay, moving on, similar theme. Black Crowes also says that it adapts to everyone's style, which is a big claim. Do you feel like that's true? Does it have a broad appeal, and can it be skied in different ways?
Yeah, everyone's is a bit too broad.
I think so, too.
I think that,
I know what they're getting at, but
yeah. And they're very much like putting this in the resort. This is a resort ski.
yeah, so you have to
And-
kind of think about it inside of those constraints.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it as basically an 80% on-trail ski.
Yeah,
Whereas even within that, I'm putting Cactus more as a 60%
yeah.
on-trail ski.
70, 30, 60, 40.
Yeah,
I
so you're even moving more towards more inclusion with Cactus. I
Yeah.
think that that's even more, this is for
more
everybody.
universal. Yeah.
I think that this is more of a traditional feeling ski, and we talked about that with the Virtus, that people that like that camber feel and that sharp snap out of the tail,
Yeah.
those are the people that are really going to like a Sato. I think that people that are more adventurous in nature are going to have to put the work in to get this thing to feel like
Well,
a more broad-ranging ski.
I posted a quick, like, real short social media video yesterday of you skiing it, and right away there were several comments that were like, that looks like it has excellent rebound.
Yeah.
And I think it really does.
Yep. Thick,
Yeah.
squared off tail,
Yeah.
you know, with a lot of material back there.
And like reasonably easy to engage the shovel
Yeah.
and get it to bend into a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say on its versatility or broad appeal or?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about versatility in terms of off-piste, unless you have something going ahead for that.
Well, that is an excellent segue again.
Okay.
Black Crowes also says that it can tame wild snow. What are your thoughts on that claim and its overall off-piste performance, and I would say especially variable conditions, because that's what I would call wild snow.
I think that that skiers do that more than skis, and that the ski has to have a very off-piste oriented shape in order for the ski to do most of the work. If you think about like the QST 100.
Well, I was going to say justice.
Sure.
Like, Justice tames wild snow
Yeah.
exceptionally well.
Let's just say like more curvaceous 100
Yeah.
millimeter underfoot skis.
Yeah.
So whether you're talking about a Justice or a Dina Star M3 100, or there's
Yeah.
a lot in there that those do a better job at taming wild snow. This 88 with camber and minimal taper in the tail, that's when the skier has to put in more of the work
Yeah.
in order to get that. And I'm just not sure that this is an expert level ski on paper. You know, I'm not sure how many experts are going to be seeking this ski out for off-trail adventure and off-piste skiing.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
And I think that an intermediate might have a harder time on this than they would on
Yeah.
a QST 100.
No, I think that's very fair to say. I don't think that's a bad thing, though. Like, going back to you saying that it's like an 80% on-trail ski, if anything, it could be more than that. Like, if you really have significant off-piste goals,
Yeah.
there's probably better places to look. But
Yeah.
like, you know, on like an average ski day for, we'll call it an average skier for lack of a better term, like, you know, say you're taking 10 runs, how many of those are top to bottom like bumps?
0.4.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much.
Like not many. And if, you know, if you take 10 runs and 5 or 6 of them are top to bottom off-piste conditions, you should probably know that you're not shopping in this category. Or if
Yeah.
you are, you have like pretty distinct style and preferences.
I also think that you're missing out on what this thing does really well, which
Right.
is
If you yeah.
on trail,
Yeah.
like mid emotional carving.
Yeah.
Like it's just beautiful in that regard.
Right.
that you're-
And like think of all the wider skis that Black Crowes makes, like
Yeah.
Kamix, Justice,
Yeah.
Atris, like tons of options for those skiers.
Yeah, but I think it's an awesome mogul ski. It's one of the better
Yeah.
ones out there. I like it because of its consistent flex
Yeah.
and supportive tail. Like this also
Great
is an
mogul ski.
awesome mogul
Always
ski.
has been. Yeah.
But it just depends on whether you have a preference for more of a turned up tail or if you like more of a solid feel back there.
Yeah.
So that's more of a preference thing rather than a performance.
I'm more of a Cactus mogul skier.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. This is my last question. I told you five and a half. And this is kind of picking up off something that you mentioned earlier in the video. 179.3 is the longest length. Do you think this creates a limitation for bigger skiers?
I do. Yeah. I don't like, yeah.
Do
This,
you think it's a similar conversation of like, if you're a bigger skier and overpowering this ski in a 179, you should probably be looking elsewhere to start?
yeah, maybe maybe you were a Serpo skier all along.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to get you into. But it kind of puts this as not a stepping stone. What am I thinking of? I guess I'm thinking of a stepping stone ski.
Yeah.
Like an entryway into Black Crowes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like this ski's construction and style punch above that level.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would much rather see a 184, which would be, that's the next size up in Cactus.
I mean, even like that 180 Serpo that you've got there,
Yeah.
that's a lot more ski. Even with the softer flexing tips and tails, that's a lot more ski than that 179 Sato.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's like a pretty natural progression.
But that said, like I didn't have any problems
Yeah,
with
on
the
the 179.
179.
Yeah.
I think that if you're expecting a Mantra 84 in a 184 out of this, then it's just not going to happen. If you turn this
Yeah.
into a 180, if you had this in a 184 and you're expecting Mantra 88 performance, they're different.
Right.
But I really enjoyed that 179.
Do you think most skiers buy lengths that are too long or too short?
Too long.
I would agree. Because like you're a great representation, or a great example of like the footage of you skiing that ski in a 179 looks awesome.
Yeah. And it felt awesome.
Right. And it's like, I've always been pretty quick to say and very open about my opinion that a lot of skiers are very ego driven. And I feel like I can comfortably say that because I was really ego driven for a long time.
Yeah, same.
Skiing like
Same.
191
Yeah.
and Forster 110s, thinking that I was some kind of badass. But like, that was so stupid.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty firmly entrenched into a 179 enforcer
Right.
now.
Right.
So it's not a huge difference from here other than the metal. You know, the metal's going to be more supportive at speed on firm snow.
Yeah.
But that's really it.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest difference is your level of support and grip in firm snow is better with multiple sheets of metal.
Yeah.
But the length doesn't have as much to do with it as I thought. And that really only comes from,
Perception.
well, no, frankly, skiing hundreds of pairs of skis over the years.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And experimenting and
Yeah.
with different skis, different lengths,
I think
different
the lack of
conditions.
that understanding comes from perception. I guess that's kind of what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're obviously jaded in our opinions in that we are able to get
Yeah.
on so many skis in multiple lengths that it makes the whole conversation even more convoluted
Yeah.
rather than more clear.
No, it 100% it further complicates everything.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I mean, this is a bit like we're kind of off track here, but I think we're also like done. So whatever. It just creates like a really challenging thing.
Yeah.
Because you also like take somebody who's been skiing 180 plus skis their entire life, try and tell them that they might be better off on a 173, and similar to how like skiers can be ego driven, you could also like really offend that person.
Right.
Like I don't want to offend anybody. I just think it's an interesting conversation of like, you know, maybe skiers should really be looking
Yeah.
just a little narrow or a little shorter.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad skier.
Not at all.
If you're on a shorter ski.
Yeah, not at all.
It's really-
It's just like, it's more like count the situations where it's a hindrance or a benefit.
Yeah.
And I would say going shorter, if you really do that exercise and think about the situations where it's a hindrance or a benefit, shorter often provides more benefits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's all I got. Thanks for sharing your Sato experience and thoughts.
Yeah, it was full of joy. I really enjoyed this ski.
It's fantastic.
Really good.
It's fantastic. So if you would like to have a joyful skiing experience, you should take a long look at this Black Crow Sato. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing an on-snow review of it. I think it would be fantastic. Like, all we need is Lord to North Slope and Centerline.
With snow guns everywhere
Yeah.
and some
Yeah.
ice and some moguls on the
Moguls.
sides, some
Yeah.
side hits. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be in heaven.
Yeah,
It'd be
perfect.
awesome.
Yeah, so look out for that in like early December. And until then, let us know if you have any questions, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.